What is good, Ghost Mafians? Welcome back to the Real Talk Podcast with your host, Mr. Ghost. We're bringing the facts. We're going to bring the truth. We're going to put it on the table. And in doing so, we're going to expose the hypocrisy, the lies, and the evil in our fallen world. As true light bearers of Jesus Christ, it is our duty to shine our light upon the darkness. And in doing so, we expose the evil. And to defeat evil is through good. And doing good deeds is a good thing, but it is not going to get you into heaven. By good works alone, you will never be saved. The only way to be saved is through our Lord Jesus Christ, our Lord of Lords, King of Kings, who's set to return. Can I get an amen in the comments below? Also, guys, do not forget to subscribe, hit your bell notification, hit that like button, because in doing so, you're helping the channel grow. You're pushing this out to more people to spread the information, the truth. Also, guys, please do not forget to comment your take on this topic we're discussing today. Mark Bray is a Rutgers University professor. This professor is under fire. He's pretty much in some trouble. There are speculations that he's being threatened. His life is at risk. Now, many might ask the question, well, Mr. Ghost, why is his life at risk? Once again, I condone any kind of violence. I don't care if the violence comes from the right or the left. I condone it. I even condone doxing people, okay? Because at the end of the day, we're not going to get true dialogue. We're not going to get true answers in fixing the problem in this country by attacking one another. That's what the enemy wants. You know what I'm saying? They want us to attack each other. Now, Mark Bray wrote a book in 2017 called Antifa, the Anti-Fascist Handbook. Now, he claims he wrote that book simply because he was doing research. Well, then you wouldn't have named it a handbook. And you are very supportive of Antifa because 50% of your proceeds of this book goes to funding the movement. Now, we do know that the movement's been labeled as a terrorist organization by our president. So with that being said, with them being labeled a terrorist organization, Mr. Professor, you are funding terrorism. Now, do I believe Antifa to be a terrorist organization? Well, I will say this. When it first started, after World War II, well, prior to World War II, to stop the mustache man, no, it really wasn't. It was a good movement to stop this individual. But as we progress into the 60s, the 70s, and obviously into the early 2010s, we've witnessed it turn into a terrorist-style organization. Now, they claim that they have to meet violence with violence, but nobody's being violent against them. You know, at the assassination of Charlie Kirk, you saw nobody burning cities. You saw nobody going after Antifa or going after trans people. You saw people crying. You saw people mourning, praying. Great revival happened after that. But when it comes to Antifa, they've been burning cities. They burnt down Portland. You know, they've burned down in Minneapolis. So we could go on and on and on of how Antifa has literally been burning and terrorizing communities. So inherently, you're a terrorist because you are making it impossible for a city to thrive or even a civilization to thrive. Now, I'm all for the idea of not having another mustache man, right? I hear the rhetoric from the left, primarily the left, and this is the problem when it comes to the Antifa movement, is that they want to shut up anybody that speaks out against the left's ideology. That's their primary goal. It is not to stop a dictator. It is not to stop a fascist movement. It is to stop those who are spreading the truth. That's exactly what it is. You don't want the truth to be out there. You don't want people to hear the truth of what you guys are doing. That you guys are terrorizing people. There have been people that have died because of this movement. It is crazy. We're going to be looking at a Fox News video, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper into why I believe that this guy is in some serious trouble. Because if he is funding terrorism, that's a federal crime. But let's dive into this video, and I'll give you my take after.
Hey, Sandra. Well, this teacher is still at the school. He's not gone yet. The Rutgers Turning Point chapter tells me they're not going anywhere either, calling for the university to cut ties with the assistant professor that they call Dr. Antifa. So let's pull him up again. This is the professor we're talking about, Mark Bray. He teaches history at Rutgers University. Turning Point demanding the school fire him because they believe he is a member of Antifa, which the White House declared a domestic terrorist organization. Bray tells the New York Times, "I'm not a member, I just study it," but Turning Point tells me they don't buy it.
We do not want our taxpayer money funding Antifa professors. It's not right. It shouldn't be happening. We're working to get more signatures. We want to get as much attention as possible. We're going to try and contact Rutgers to see if they'll comment on the situation, if they'll work to protect their students as they should be. But yeah, just keep doing what we're doing and keep trying to bring attention to Dr. Antifa.
Okay, so this is why they call him Dr. Antifa, Sandra, because Bray literally wrote the book on Antifa. He published this, the Antifa Anti-Fascist Handbook, back in 2017. You can see the cover there. In the book, he wrote himself that at least 50% of the proceeds were donated to the International Anti-Fascist Defense Fund. Bray has fled the country. He's now in Spain, slamming Turning Point for trying to take his job.
I'm a researcher, I'm a dad, I'm just trying to kind of live my life here. And it's really, I think, hypocritical for the alleged, free speech absolutists of Turning Point USA to basically try to use cancel culture against me simply because they don't like my ideas.
So Bray doesn't like cancel culture, he says. But after the group called for Bray to get out and be fired, thousands of people asked Rutgers to kick Turning Point off campus. A petition signed by thousands of people, including a Rutgers professor, according to our Fox Digital team. So Rutgers tells Fox that the university is committed to upholding the rights of students and faculty to free speech, but wouldn't comment on this controversy specifically. So we'll see what happens, because this guy's now out of the country, Sandra, and Turning Point's chapters have skyrocketed across the country. So it seems like things are heating up with this story. We'll keep an eye on it.
Certainly have. Alexis McAdams on that for us. Thank you, Alexis.
So, Ghost Mafians, do I believe this professor truly left the country simply because his life is being threatened, or the life of his family? Yes and no. Yes, in the context of his doxing, of his address physically being doxed. That's 100% wrong. Don't do that shit. It's stupid, okay? And illegal, by the way. It is a federal crime. See, then no. You know what I'm saying? The other part of it is a no. And I'm going to explain that one, because when somebody doxed me, I went to the police. It is a federal crime. I know there is a retribution for that. I know there will be a consequence for that, right? He could have simply went to the police and said, hey, they doxed my address. Then I would have moved my family to a motel for a while. You know what I'm saying? The difference is I'm not providing a manifesto to a terrorist or organization. That's the big difference. I believe he really fled the country because of 18 USC 2339 subsection A and B, which is a law that prohibits providing any material support or resource to a designated terrorist organization. That could be financial, weapons, training, and any other source that you would provide for them. And obviously subsection B of that law pertains to the foreign aspect of a designated terrorist organization. We know that Trump labeled Antifa a terrorist organization simply because they're terrorizing the shit out of communities. They're burning down cities. They're burning down businesses. They're trying to hurt people. Listen, they assassinated Charlie Kirk. They assassinated him. On the bullet itself is said, when the casing is said, "Hello, fascist, catch." He was radicalized by an Antifa far-left ideology to hurt those on the right that are speaking out against the atrocities in this country. Now, what atrocities I'm talking about? Well, is their agenda to think a man can be a woman and a woman can be a man, mutilating children, abortions, yada, set forth. I do not want to hear one thing from Antifa or from the far left when you are supporting the genocide of millions and millions and millions of babies. So if you want to start comparing, apples to oranges, you, my guys, are the mustache man. You're the mustache man. Anybody in the far left that supports the genocide of babies, that is supporting the mutilation of children, that is supporting this radical idea that men could play in women's sports, or men could be women, and women can be men, you, in fact, are a fascist. You, in fact, I can 100% say, is a mustache style type of person. So I don't want to hear this. I'm not saying this as rhetoric and as a lie because the left is far peaceful. They're not. We have evidence of the abortions. We have evidence of the mutilation of children. We have the evidence of the indoctrination and the radicalization of the human mind on the far left. So we're coming with facts with all of that. He left the country because he knows he could be persecuted under these statutes. But once again, we can say, because his address got doxed and he just fled. Me personally, I'm standing on my front porch. You know what I'm saying? Yes, I contacted the police when I got doxxed, but in all reality, if I got these balls of steel to support a terrorist organization, I'll be standing on my front porch. But yo, come and get me, boy. And I've said that actually, you know what I'm saying, to the person that doxxed me, you got my address, show up. They never did. Because I'm not scared. You know what I'm saying? I am not scared. Because I will defend my castle, I will defend my family, I will defend my wife, I will defend my children with every ounce of blood I have. Do understand that this guy fled the country simply because he couldn't handle the truth being shoved into his face. And Rutgers University, you have to do something about this. We cannot have professors that are radicalizing our children when they go off to college. And that's why I believe college to be a scam. We're going to dive into some other things I found on X, and I'll give you my concise on that, guys. Let's dive into that. All right, guys, this is from The Hill. It is true that I donated 50% of the author's proceeds to the International Anti-Fascist Defense Fund. This is a fund that raises money from small donations from activists around the world to pay for the legal and sometimes medical costs of activists charged with offenses pertaining to anti-fascism, Bray said. Most of the people that it supports are in countries like Belarus and Russia, but some of them have been in the U.S., and that itself is not an Antifa group. Well, he's full of crap because they are Antifa. They literally call themselves Antifa. They are part of the Antifa movement. This article is from our buddy over here on X. Go follow him, Andy NGO. Go give him a subscribe button as well. You know, he's saying that the financer of Antifa, an assistant professor at Rutgers University, wrote in his Antifa Handbook that violence and harassment should be used to silence Americans who voted for Donald Trump. He fled to Europe after the U.S. government took steps to target Antifa domestic terrorism. Our goal should be that in 20 years, those who voted for Trump are too uncomfortable to share that fact in public. We may not always be able to change someone's beliefs, but we are sure as hell can make it politically, socially, economically, and sometimes physically costly to articulate them. This is another post. This is from Jack Puzio. All right, let's go take a look what he has to say over there on Fox.
Mark Bray was denounced by the president of Dartmouth University because of his embrace of violence all the way back in 2017. He said if you label someone a white supremacist, if you label someone a fascist, then he endorses violence against them. The same way that our leader, Charlie Kirk, was branded a fascist and included the casing of one of the bullets that said, "Hey, fascist, catch." So, Mark Bray, have you disavowed the violence against Charlie Kirk, our former CEO? Or late CEO? Have you disavowed the violence that you have endorsed against our own students, like these two incredible female students there at Rutgers, who, by the way, they're being harassed, they're now being doxxed. And I would just say this to Rutgers. I spoke with Turning Point headquarters earlier tonight. We stand by our chapter. We will defend our chapter. And if the university wants to make an issue of it, they can find out how good our lawyers are.
So this is my final concise on this, guys. Listen, doxing anybody, whether you're doxing him or doxing the girls to try to intimidate them, stop it. It's a federal crime. You're going to ruin your life for what? A fake intimidation. Granted, he was intimidated. We can say that much. He has yet to prove to us within any receipts that there was physical threats. When that does come about, I will make another episode on this topic, and I will obviously disavow it, because you don't do that. You know what I'm saying? You don't threaten somebody's family, threaten their kids, threaten their livelihood. But at the end of the day, guys, we're never going to solve the disconnect within our society by violence, by doxing one another. Now, we know that the far left and their rhetoric has been going on for so long that it has caused the death of Americans. Our cities were burned by this rhetoric. You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, we're witnessing people labeling our ICE agents gazapos, when now we're witnessing violence increase on them. I got a podcast coming up on that one. And at the end of the day, guys, we look at Mark Bray. He wrote a manifesto for Antifa. And his funds from that, 50% of it, goes to Antifa movements and Antifa defense. So he's supporting them within the sense of financial gain. And that makes him a criminal, guys. We can't deny that. You know what I'm saying? There is a inherent law that if an organization is designated a terrorist organization under 18 U.S.C. 2338 subsection A, and as well as 2339 subsection B, these laws are in place to prevent and try to prohibit the support of domestic or even foreign terrorist organizations that have been designated like that. And he's done so. But we have listened to this rhetoric over and over and over. And he's talking about like 20 years from now. What's to say 20 years from now, Trump is no longer with us, because I think he would be well over 100. But let's just say 2028 comes. The election comes, J.D. Vance becomes president. Okay? Or there's somebody else elected, okay? Let's just put that out there. And it's not Donald Trump. What other rhetoric are you going to come up with? What other lies you're going to come up with to fearmonger the American populace? Because he's never going to be a dictator. Trump will never be. You really think MAGA supporters, constitutionalists, are going to be like, yeah, you know, he's going to be our dictator? No, we've had ancestors that fought for this country against the spread of fascism, fought against dictators. Okay, I've had my own family, my aunt, literally on my Facebook post for my uncle Arthur Raymond Davis. I went down to his hometown. They have this memorial with that, their Central Park. And I'll post that with on this channel, and I'll show you guys. She posted on there about Donald Trump, about him being a dictator. And she was just going off and off and off. And I simply told her, like, listen, this is not the place or time. I wrote in memory of your brother, my uncle, that I never had a chance to meet. And this is the bracelet I wear. It's a memorial bracelet for him. And I wear it every time I do a podcast because it reminds me of the freedom. It doesn't come cheap. Okay, I never met him. But the death of my uncle in the Vietnam War hits home. I'm choking up because of it. 18 years old. He wasn't drafted. He volunteered to serve this country like every other ancestor of mine. And at the end of the day, I'm tired of hearing the rhetoric from the far left that we're Nazis, we're fascists. No, I didn't vote for Trump because of his language. I didn't vote for Trump because of who he used to be. I voted for Trump because of his policies, of how making America first. And if that makes me a fascist, that makes me a Nazi, well, damn it, I am definitely blind to what World War II was all about and what happened in Germany. Because that's not happening. But I will say this, and I'm going to be very clear with this about the far left. You guys support abortions. You support the mutilation of children. You support the ideology men can be with and women supports. You support the ideology that men can be women. You support the ideology that women can be men. Okay? When it comes to all of that, okay? When we look at the lens of what those entail, I will leave it as this. You do your own research of what the Nazis did during World War II. Mutilations, exterminations, aka abortions, just real life ones. That's what they done. So before you come at me, or come at anybody of the right, anybody that's part of Turning Point, anybody that speaks truth, do your research, know your facts. Because I don't support abortion. The eradication of millions of babies, and I don't want to hear the rhetoric from anybody when it comes to what about rape? What about incest? That's less than 1%. I would literally tell you this. Do your research on why abortion started. The original founder. She used the N-word to eradicate the N people. When the majority of our abortions are from the African American community, you might want to do some damn research before you even come at me. When you are mutilating children because they're confused mentally, because they're fighting demons, that's not love, that's hate, that's evil. When you are trying to tell men that they're just as good as women and they could play in women's sports and take over women's spaces, that's evil. Telling somebody and affirming somebody's mental illness instead of trying to help them, that is evil. How about this? How about we love them unconditionally? We help them, get them the services they need, and we stop aborting babies. How about we stop mutilating our children? So before anybody on the left comes at me and says that this guy is some saint, or any rhetoric that comes out of your mouth that we are the enemy, you got to look in the mirror of who the Nazis really were, then compare your agenda. Because I promise you, it will literally shake you to the core. With that being said, guys, I yield. God bless you guys. Don't forget to subscribe, bell notification, hit that like button. I love you all. Seek Jesus. Have a good night.